Mr. Kurtagram, back in hot seat again. How are you, my friend?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. You staying cool over there? I don't know about you, but I am absolutely sweating bullets where I am.
Yeah, so I've actually opened my office door so that I can let in the aircon from the living room, because it just gets so bloody sweaty in your house, yeah?
Yeah, last session I'm yet to go through the last session, but I had my Dyson fan on for half of the last session, and I'm not sure how bad it is for the audio, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I would normally turn it off, and that's why I'm sweating now. I don't know if I look shiny in the video. Anyway, let's talk some photography, shall we? That's what we do, isn't it?
Yep.
This week I want to talk about, photography school. You actually you studied photography, did you?
Yeah, yep. So I studied at essentially it was run kind of like a TAFE, but the course was offered through like a partnering university, so it was by Torrens University, which is, I think they're based in South Australia. So for me, it was I don't even think it's a degree. It was just like Cert 4 in photo imaging, it was called. Yep. Back then. And I think every year they delete subjects and add new subjects and that kind of thing. So it's an ever-changing thing, which is good, because they're trying to keep up with the times. But when I went there, mirrorless was only just beginning, and the teachers just didn't understand it. Yeah, it was pretty funny, but they were working professionals, but they'd had 30 to 40 years experience with DSLRs, and then before that SLRs.
I have some views on photography school. I'm in two minds. If I had been interested in photography, I think I definitely would have done it when I was going to uni, because I studied business at uni, and then by the end of my course, I was not interested in that world, in the corporate world. But also looking back, in a way, I'm kind of glad that I didn't do it, because relating it to learning music, which I hope you can level with me here as well, is, to be honest, the best musicians that I know, like my mates, maybe not all of them, but some of the best musicians that I know are the sort of musicians who worked out how to teach themselves music. Because I know the way that I learned drums, I learnt it all very traditionally, and I learned how to read music, and I learned jazz, and I learned Latin, and I learned this, and I learned that. But one thing I didn't learn was how to teach myself drums. I mean, you can listen to something and you can work it out after a certain amount of time, but one thing that I found learning drums the way that I did was, I think very much in fours. And I think the way that I was taught is forever imprinted on me, as in, like, I've been put into the mold of the teachers that taught me, and I've come out a version of them. I have this theory that photography is a little bit the same, and down here we have like RMIT, and there's like PSC, and there's a few different photography colleges. And my theory is that the schools don't teach, well, I don't know if that's fair, but I think in a way they mold them after the teachers. Like, the teachers have certain views and biases on photography, which they imprint on the students, and the students leave with those beliefs. How do you feel it affected you? And if you had your time again, would you do it again? If you were starting now, would you do it again?
So I think it's very true what you said about the teachers having an effect, or like teaching their way of photography. So I think that Some students may be pigeonholed into shooting that, whereas for me, when I first started, I was probably more interested in, shooting bands and stuff like that. Whereas they didn't want to know anything about that. It was more like, you need to be a family portrait photographer. This is how much you can charge, blah, 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 and then this, you can be a commercial photographer. Like there was essentially like three routes that they kind of put on you to do. There was one class called exhibition where you'd display, you'd hire a gallery, get your images printed, all that stuff. But pretty much they were looking at documentary style, um, family portraiture style, and then commercial, right? So for me, when I first went there, it was all a big learning curve because I thought that I knew somewhat something about photography, but realistically, I knew zero. So for me, it was the best thing I could have done was actually rock up and try to learn. Because yeah, within the first couple of classes, one of the teachers who I ended up respecting a lot kind of just put me in my place. So it was cool because obviously I'd only known aperture priority. I didn't even know it was called that. I just put it on A mode,
yeah.
which meant I could select my depth of field, and that's all I really cared about. So, and I think aperture priority is just a totally different way of shooting because you don't have full control over what's happening, and a lot of the times, your highlights will be way too blown out, or your shadows way too dark in aperture priority, I feel. So for me, it was about learning. He broke it down for me. He was, I can't remember what classes he was teaching, but one of them was obviously, how to use your camera, pretty much camera basics. But he taught me a lot, and which I really, I can't even remember his name, but but it was like he taught me that, and then he also held the light and lighting class, which is hands down the best thing I could have done there. So for me, it was about learning. I can walk into a room and go, okay, my key light needs to be at this, and then this light on the right needs to be half a stop less. The back on needs to be, a stop above or whatever. So like I can walk into a room and see that now. Whereas if I didn't go to that school, I still wouldn't know how to use lights. Like a lot of people don't.
Yeah. One thing that I have noticed in my friends that have gone to photography school is that whether it's through, the competition between your peers and your classmates, or just, I suppose, the cynicism of the teachers, because I assume that most photography teachers or professors, they've been around, right? They've been around for quite some time. And that was certainly my experience in marketing at uni. Like a lot of the tutors and stuff, they were very cynical about the industry. And I hate to say it, but that is one of the things that they imprinted on me. And one of the things that I remember from my uni experience is it's going to be really hard to get a job. It's a tough economy. Really, it's so competitive out there. You have to find a way to stand out. If you don't, you're not going to get a job. And I can only imagine that is taken up to 11 in photography school. Can you speak on that?
It is.
And I would also like to know, are many of your classmates still shooting? Do you keep in touch with them?
Yeah, dude, and that's the thing because I've been. It's really hard to find a good assistant, right? Or someone that you can, bring on shoots and actually have some creative input. So, for me, for the last couple of years before I, met and found Joel, because he's a gun. He come from an agency world, so totally different experiences, and he studied at uni and stuff like that. But the kids that I went to school with, also I was pretty mature when I started going there. I was like, I can't even remember how old I was. Maybe I was like 30 years old. So everyone else there was maybe fresh out of school, 18 to 20, and then you'd have your people. There was a couple older than me, and then a couple around the same age as well. So for me, there was only one kid named Tom Lands, and I think he does a little bit still, but not really. But I knew, like I could tell by looking at his work that I was like, oh, this kid's got it, you know, whereas like, unfortunately, everyone else that was there within that 2 year, 2 year, um, what is it, like graduation period, I just feel like they just didn't have it. Like, and some of them have kind of started, they tried to do their thing, and it was again very dictated by what the teachers had, I guess, recommended them, right? So, and for me, it was just another a fail of yeah, just like not a waste of their time, but like
Yeah.
just say there was 30 kids in my class. Like, I'm the only one who's doing it full time,
Yeah.
and the other kid who I thought was good at it, maybe he was just too young to start his own business, or even like, yeah, if you're a photographer, where do you even get a job if it's
Yeah.
not working for yourself? Like, you literally can't.
Yeah.
It's such a part-time or casual hobby, before it ever gets to something that actually makes you an income where you can survive off it, right?
Yeah.
We're very lucky to be in the industry, and we don't even second guess it. We just think, oh, I'm just going to work. That's my job.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else who was probably, well, at least at my school, like, yeah, they just didn't pursue it, or just didn't back themselves enough, like, or actually just didn't get good enough at it either. Like there was a lot of students that I feel like, I think it was only like pass or fail. There wasn't even a grading system. So, if you fail a subject, you have to re-enroll and just keep doing it until you finish it. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can only say good things about the school because of my experience. I really loved going there. I probably didn't have the education or the mental ability to go to university and finish a degree, 4-year kind of thing. Whereas this was only 1 year full time.
Yeah.
And I started it when I quit my engineering job, and within 6 months, I had enough photography work that it was my full-time job then. So
Yeah.
I didn't even finish my degree. So I got 6 months into that year and then stopped.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. And so why do you think it is that that model doesn't work for so many people? Do you think it is a maturity thing?
It's really
because
hard.
one out of 30 is not a good ratio. I'm not talking shit on, sorry to keep interrupting you. I'm not talking shit on your course or your teachers or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like if the job of this system is to make working photographers, and 1 out of 30, pass that test, that's not a good ratio, is it?
No, it's not. And I can think of any other industry, right? If you're a plumber, you can still be a shit plumber and still make money, and because there's probably more demand for that. And then now, I guess, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to sound harsh, but like, they just didn't have the ability. Like, they just weren't producing quality images. Like, so how do you expect to be booked if your work's not good? Like, no matter what industry you're in. But I think with photography, it's a lot harder. And then it's even since then, with the boom of social media and everyone having a camera and, the 1,000 filters there is on Instagram, like, people do a pretty good job by themselves. So they don't really need to hire a photographer. Like, a lot of people will ask me, oh, hey, what's my first good, what camera can I buy for this or that? And a lot of the time I do just say, hey, look, your iPhone is good for what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Go near your window and just use the natural light. Like, if you can understand how to use an iPhone with natural light, or then, I don't know, like, there obviously is a need for high-end photographers, and then even content photographers that are doing stuff for cafes and all that. Like, there definitely is a need, and there's like, it's hard. I just don't want to trash talk like anything, but it's just so hard for me to try and get, I don't know, I everything you've said I've agreed with, but then at the same time, like, it wasn't the case for me. So it's like,
You're the
Yeah, I don't
exception
know.
that proves the rule, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think about that a bit when I'm just, because for the last couple of years, I've tried to try and find a good assistant. So if it was like someone that studied with me, I would already have that relationship with them, and then be able to trust them to move lights or understand what's happening. But, out of the 30 of them, there was only one kid, and yeah, he kind of went to rural Australia somewhere. So it's like, um, if I was maybe to even try and find an assistant at the college now, they've restructured, renamed, all that stuff. Like, you might find there would be talented kids out there, but yeah, I don't know. It's a hard topic to talk about.
We've been trying to hire as well. We've been trying to find more assistants and more photographers to fill different roles for us. And it has been very, very difficult. And I honestly think part of it is a maturity thing, but part of it is also that I think you just don't come out of, this is just a hunch, this is based on no science, this is just me thinking out loud. I think regardless of what you do, you don't come out of it ready to do the thing, right? Even if you think about driving, you don't actually learn to drive until you are driving on your own. You can have 20 lessons and that'll get you ready to pass the test, but really you don't start driving until you have to make all those decisions on your own, because when you've got someone standing next to you, they tell you turn left here, do a reverse park, chuck a UE, let this guy in. It's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, so there is something that I will say on that. When I was a draftsman, I did my, advanced diploma in mechanical engineering, and then I did bloody whatever it was, diploma in CAD, computer aided drafting. So you'd think that, same thing as uni, whatever you study, oh, that's it, you're ready, you've done your 4 years or whatever. But everything I learned in every job that I've ever had was on the job training. So I may have been technically qualified for the job, but I was like under prepared or I learned a lot in the first 6 months of working anywhere.
Yeah.
And now that I look back at it, seeing the images that I produced, within that first year of me being full time, I would not have hired me. like
that
what
was
I mean?
your degree.
Like,
that first year, that was your life degree, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then within that first year, I was given the opportunity, and I don't know, I must have been doing something right, because I held, those clients for, 3 years. But it was like, when I look back at the images, I just pull them apart. Like, I'd love to do a YouTube thing where it's like, shit on your first year of photography, and I could pull it apart and I would be brutally honest. But maybe at that time there wasn't as many photographers and technology wasn't advanced, and the quality was probably lower. Whereas, I think we've talked about this before, the quality is so high now that people are underwhelmed with stuff, because they're just used to seeing quality every day. So that's why I think the use of GIFs and animation and all that, even though it's a still image, like, that's what has to bring things to life more, whether that's why I try to do it from doing a product thing, that's why I throw so much ingredients and shit around, because it's like, well, that's something, rather I can take a good photo of a pizza, but like, it's kind of nothing unless there's more elements, or even, the next level, like putting copy or graphics or whatever. Like, I feel like, and being a commercial photographer, my job is like literally 20% of the total outcome. Like, it's like, I just need to get the photo as good as I can, so then it'll make someone else's job easier, right? Like, there's not many jobs that I do now where it's purely just the image, right? I mean, yeah, usually there's copy or branding or something around it. Yeah.
And to be honest, that stuff, maybe not from a pure photography perspective, but in terms of the final product, that stuff can really take a photo to another level. Not trying to take away from what you're doing at all. Like, you're doing your job perfectly, but a little bit of copy or a little bit of graphics or something, that can take a photo from here to, billboard.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I know, for example, talk about the importance of a team. I was speaking to someone recently, or maybe I was watching someone on YouTube, and they were saying something like, food photography, high-end food photography. He's like, to be honest, the stylist is doing most of the work here. Yeah, you have to light it, you have to photograph it, and, that's, there is a technical side of it, but really the heavy lifting here is done by the stylist and the chef. And, often those are two and the same people. Often a good stylist is cooking as well.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think, I've worked with stylists before, and, they've commented on how well I've lit something, and said that, wow, like, this changes everything. It's like they've gotten it to the level that they can get it to. And then it's like, it's your team. Like, it goes, and then I'll have my go at it. And then it's like, it's raising the bar again. And then, the graphics person will have their go. And again, it just it keeps getting better and better, which is why it's actually exciting to work on those commercial jobs, because it's like the end result is just so much cooler than, if I was at home just take, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just it's a pizza or it's a, it's a dish or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. The final result, the final outcome is equal to more than the sum of each of the parts, because everyone has made everyone else better. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. But I think that's why I also have been falling more and more in love with like documentary style photography. And this year I really want to have a go at shooting a lot more film as well, because I feel like I've just fallen in love with photography again, in the imperfection, and also it not having to be at such a high level, because sometimes, exactly. Sometimes it's like, it's tough. It's a lot of mental. I know standing around 8 hours on a shoot doesn't sound like it's mentally draining, but like sometimes if shit ain't working, and and all you're doing is moving, a plate or a fork by like millimeters at a time, like it's it can be tough.
After lunchtime, like 1 or 2 hours after lunchtime, I feel like just everyone is exhausted on set. It's you're right, it doesn't sound like a taxing thing. It might be product photography or fashion or whatever, and you're not doing strenuous work. You're not running around or jumping up and down, or you're not building a house, but just mentally, and it's just completely draining. You're right. Cool. Okay, I like that. And I feel the same. I've been trying so hard to fall in love with photography again, and I've been shooting a hell of a lot. And I, like you said, just the pressure being off, and the actually just enjoying the making, and then not worrying about what it looks like afterwards. Oh my God, it's like it's letting out a creative sigh is what it is. Yeah. It's just like, it's like someone giving me a creative massage, and then, my cup is a little bit more full again. This weekend, for example, Gem and I were away, and I shot a lot with my little Fuji camera. And, just as an example, we drove, the first night we went out for dinner, and we drove down this country road, and there was this paddock that had these, those, it's super cliche, but those cows with the big fringes and the big horns?
Yeah.
It was like golden hour, and there was these cows like right up to the edge of the paddock. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. We have to stop there and take a photo on the way back. And on the way back, they were nowhere to be seen. They were at the other end. So for the next 2 days, we like 3 or 4 times we drove past trying to find these cows. I walked up this person's like long ass driveway trying to get an angle of these cows and whatever. But you know what? It was so much fun. Like, it sounds so silly. Like, I was shooting cows in paddock, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we do it.
That's the thing. It's a very confronting topic, talking about education, and there's always that chat that people have that say, oh, you don't need to go to uni to do this or to do that, and like it's probably 50-50, because there are people that really excel because they've went to uni. Maybe it's like changed something in their brain where they've switched on, or they've leveled up, or maybe they've understood how the world works better, or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a I didn't realize that subject would be more confronting than it was, because I have very mixed opinions on it, and I still think if people were actually keen to know more about photography, that they do enroll in a some kind of course. But there was a girl who was actually on shoot the other day. She's just doing an internship 1 day a week at LSKD, and she's actually studying the exact same course that I did. But for her light and lighting course, she wasn't able to be there in person because of COVID. So everything that she's done for assignments and everything has been all online. And I feel like that's something that needs to be very practical, like a lighting course. So I feel bad for the people who are trying to do study at the moment, that it is really remote and not hands-on.
Totally. My brother's studying to be a paramedic, and he's like had 2 subjects to go, or 1 subject to go for the last 2 years, but it's been like a hands-on thing. And it's like, how can you possibly do it remotely? Like, it just doesn't work.
No.
What was I going to say there? Yeah, it is very divisive, but I actually have really enjoyed hearing what you've got to say, because I have to say I'm not as heavily on one side or another as I thought, because I wish, like I said, I wish I was interested enough to go down that route. But having said that, my experience from the outside looking in is backed up by the things that you say, because you say that you look around at your classmates, and I look around at the people that I know and love that have gone through that system, and I don't see any of them doing what you're doing, or doing even, what I'm doing. Like you said, it's actually a rarity that we have been able to make our full-time living doing photography.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to flex or anything. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm some big successful person, because I'm not. But, just the fact that this is my living is something that I'm quite proud of. And, I have to say, I honestly think if I had have gone through it, I would have been a statistic. I don't think I would be the 1 out of 30, because in that competitive environment, sometimes there is that little bit of a air of hopelessness. Because like I was saying, in my degree, I remember the teacher saying, tough climate, you're not going to get a job. It's very hard to get a job, very competitive. And I just thought, what am I doing this for if I'm not going to get a job? Like, isn't the point of this that you're going to, there's going to be some way that you can feed us into something that's going to get us hired? That's the point of uni, right? To get hired, to work after.
But also, tradespeople as well, they'll go through a whole trade, and then the minute they get signed off, they can just not have a job. Like, it's no matter what. So it's like trades, uni, TAFE, all that stuff. Like, I think when you start studying something or you're doing it, like you genuinely think there's an outcome at the end where you're going to be successful in getting a job. And then the more that you study, the more that you realize that, holy shit, nothing is secure here. Like, and then it does get you doubting things, like, the higher rate for a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's scary.
I suppose the difference is, apart from the fact that it's photography is obviously like a creative, industry, and anything in that sort of, on that side of the coin, is very competitive, right? There's lots of people that want to do it. There's lots of people competing for, a finite amount of work, which is partially true. Like, I think that's very narrow-minded to even say that out loud, because I think, at a certain point there should be room for everyone if you're thinking outside the box. You should be able to. Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, technically, yeah. But that's also why, if your teacher's telling you you need to be different, it is up to you to be different, you know. And then even if you fail, at least you've tried to, you know, you've tried your best at something, right? Or you've tried to be different, or you've tried to, you know, I guess that's the thing. Everyone, in no matter what industry, I guess you are trying to be the best in your industry or whatever, because traditionally that would guarantee you, you know, income or success or whatever it is. But again, it doesn't always work like that.
Well, like you used the trade analogy before, I suppose the difference is that every single house on every single street has been plumbed and needs plumbing maintenance. And
exactly,
you know, it's a little bit of a different story to how many streets do you have to walk down before one of the people in those houses needs some photography done. Like, it's a little bit of an imbalance there. So I sort of get it, but yeah, I do think we can fall into the trap of being a little bit too narrow-minded, because if there are too many people that think they're competing for the same client, then I really genuinely believe that you're not thinking big enough, and you're not you're setting yourself up to fail, because it's what's the word? I think it's called abundance mindset. Like, if that's your view on the world, that there's this one agency, and if I'm not getting that job, someone else is, and so I have to fight that person for that job with that agency. It's like, well, you know, maybe that's true of that one job, but there's so much opportunity out there. I mean, particularly with the sort of revolutions we're going through with technology at the moment, there are so many jobs that we don't even know exist that, you know, are just around the corner. I'm not talking about photography. I'm just talking about in general.
I agree.
I heard some crazy stat about, you know, the number of jobs, or 75% or 80% of the jobs that people are going to be doing in the future aren't invented yet, or something like that. It just boggles your mind. So, you know, I just want to say, maybe for anyone that is currently going through school, or anyone that is thinking about going through school, there's always another way, and you don't have to be a maternity photographer or a wedding photographer, or you're not realistically gonna make your living shooting landscapes or doing this. Like, yeah, there's so many more ways to do it. I'm not saying I've got it figured out just because I was lucky enough to get hired by someone else.
But you're probably right. I think a lot of those traditional photography styles are kind of redundant now as well. Like, you know, landscape photography, maybe 25 years ago, it might have been a big thing, but it's not anymore, you know. So, like it'll be new things, and, you know, in like new photography styles, and, you know, things that people want to capture, right? So, you know, even OnlyFans or whatever, you know, like, obviously there's a bunch of people that do professional, you know, photography for that or whatever it is. So again, like that wasn't a thing however many years ago. I don't know how long it's been around, but yeah, you know, it's like, there will be new things that we'll have to photograph.
We'll look back on this in 10 years when we're all running around the metaverse with our NFT cameras, photographing virtual weddings, or documenting the construction of whatever. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We don't even know what we don't know. That's the weird and wonderful thing. Let's wrap it up there, mate. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Do you have a tool of the week for this week?
You go first. I'm just going to look around what's in my office.
I've got to do
surely there has to be a tool. Like, I've got so much gear in this office. Like, I surely I can just pick something. So this is going to be a bit of an easy one, but a stupid one, but also maybe one that people don't use. So this thing is just the trackpad that Apple make, right? So I got it because I don't even own a mouse anymore. They just seem pointless, and I really like just the size of these compared to just my Mac. Actually, it's literally the same size as my MacBook. But anyway, it just means that I can separate it, you know, and hook it up to the screen and all that stuff. But honestly, like, I don't get, maybe because I'm not editing like full time, but
Yeah.
For me, it's just so much better to use a trackpad than a mouse. Like, I know the mouse, there's like special mice you can get that have like, you know, the side clicks and the scrolls and all that, but everything I do, you know, even I think we're just so used to, well, I'm so used to using my MacBook that it's just like, you know, even the gestures that you can do with your hands, like, you know, 5 fingers, 3 fingers, swipe, zoom, like it just makes life easy. So
Yeah.
and the fact that this is like not connected to my computer, so I can like separate myself or move this around. Yeah, it's cooler.
I'll tell you one big advantage that you have is that I can't use my mouse and charge it at the same time.
Whoever designed that should have got sacked. Like, it wasn't Steve. He wouldn't have designed that. Someone else did it.
He would be rolling in his grave.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I did have something. I just forgot. Oh, that's what it was. I don't have it yet, but one of the things that I've ordered over the last couple of weeks is I haven't found a strap that I like, that I'm happy with for the smaller camera, for the Fuji camera. And I had a look on Etsy, and there's a lot of people making really cool, very functional straps. And so I found one that's sort of like that round
rope,
woven
kinda
rope strap.
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
But it's got quick release buckles in it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've never seen before. And so I'm super excited.
Are they like the Peak design one, like similar to that, or are they more like a buckle, like a bloody school bag?
Yeah, you can get the Peak design ones. And I did have a look at those because I've got the little tabs already. In fact, that's what I've got on the camera now. But I find that really ugly on the camera. So I ordered one that just has, just like a mini version of those, like suitcase buckles. Or Yeah, so hopefully it's a little prettier on the side of the camera. And I'll leave a link to it. I'm really happy. I think it was only $50 or $60. And it's so cool. Someone can make something and stick it up on Etsy, and you can buy it on the other side of the world. It's awesome. Yeah. Alrighty, that'll do it for another week. Thank you so much for joining me again, my friend. If you've watched this far and if you've enjoyed it, if you could take the like button out for dinner and then gently tuck in the subscribe button afterwards, and make sure you get it home before 10 p.m. That would be really good. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.